up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the official 2026 Mets season preview. Not just me and James, though. Friend of the podcast, Mets legend Daniel Murphy, joining us today. First off, Murph, thank you so much for being here. Excited to talk a little ball with you.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks for having me. James, you too. I've enjoyed watching y'all's podcast, and I appreciate you bringing me on here for a little Mets preview as the campaign is about to get started.
Campaign really is about to get started. We were talking a little bit off air about how fast the end of spring training went from the World Baseball Classic. Before we get deep into the Mets, Murph, you caught some of those Team USA games at WBC, right? How was the environment out there for the boys in blue?
It was good. We, my boys and I, my oldest Noah and my 8-year-old Drew made it out to Houston to see him take on the Canadians, and we had a blast. It was a great atmosphere. Wanted to catch him on the circuit, so my oldest Noah was born on opening day, and so we've been kind of making trips. And so with the last 2 years, we've gone to Philly, and then last year went to Texas to see the Red Sox and the Rangers play. But I was asking him this year, I was like, hey, the Americans are on the circuit right now. You want to try to catch them? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So we boogied out to Houston. We're able to stay. We end up getting a room at the team hotel, so got to mix it up a little bit with the fellas. Ran into some former teammates, Schwarber and Bryce Harper, and then got to see the starter Logan Webb because we have the same agent, and Logan and I hooked up. I like that. Not that these guys are older, but I like to see guys that were balling kind of when I was still around. Makes me feel like I might still be able to fake it. You know what I mean? But I think, like you said, James, the WBC kind of really slingshotted us into the season. I don't know if it was because like the ringers weren't in camp as much, like they were out playing for their teams. But yeah, it's here now, and even what feels like a little mini marathon before the big one, this kind of Iron Man event we got going on with the 162 games and hopefully postseason. It did get here quickly.
The idea of your boys being able to be that was the Kyle Schwarber. We hung out with him and Bryce Harper and Logan Webb. That's amazing. Even for me as a 30-year-old, being like, wow, those guys are sleep so cool.
So funny story, real quick on that one is there was a beautiful hotel they were staying in. We got to stay in Houston, and so I'm talking to Kyle a little bit. Went up and talked to him, and my son is like, he's asking for autographs. At the same time, part of the hook of the hotel is this is your home. We're not gonna let you be bothered. So one of the people that works there came up and is like, listen, it looks like you have a relationship with some of these players. At the same time, we don't really want you asking for autographs in here. If you're going to, could you go out by the bus? And I was like, fair play. I get it. And so we go out there, my boys and I walk out. We catch Ernie Clement on the way out there, who, funny story, real quick. He was in the wedding with my son's Little League coach. And so I was like, oh, Connor Maribel. I was like, yeah, I do.
What?
And so we get out there. We're behind the gates. We're waiting. A couple players go through, and the boys are asking, and some of them just head on the bus because they're getting ready for the workday, later that night. And Bryce goes by, and so I'm like, all right, here we go. I go, Bryce, we balled together in DC. And so he looks up, oh, Murph, and he comes over, gives me a hug. I get a chance to ask him about his wife, Kayla, and his kids. He's doing great, and he signs for my boys. So, and then we headed to the stadium. So it was good. It was a great time.
Just hilarious to think of like the security guy being like, seems like you might know these guys. I'm gonna treat you a little differently just because of that. But there was a guy on Team USA that's gonna be a huge part of this team this year. Nolan McLean pitched in the finals, expected to be basically the number 2 right behind Freddie Peralta in this rotation. High expectations. What does that feel like, you think, for a guy like him going into camp? You think he's ready to live up to those expectations?
I think that having Freddie Peralta brought in is going to help a ton. Somebody who we've talking about has been through the seasons before, know what it looks like to navigate the season, and it's been, a 1 or 2 plus, type of starting pitcher. And so I think Freddie will be a real calming influence. At the same time, it's nice to have young players because you can just kind of turn them loose like thoroughbreds as well, but also you want to do it in a way that gets them through the whole season because, with pitching in general, all players, but like availability is the best ability. And so, hopefully Nolan, will be able to follow Freddie, what he does every 5th day to get going. And you can go and grab, anywhere from 180 plus innings because when he pitches, I think he's going to be productive.
Yeah, it definitely is. And just the stuff in terms of how much he's grown this early on in his career is amazing. But the other big news coming out of these last few days of camp, his college teammate, his college roommate, Carson Bench, is going to be the opening day right fielder on this team. Not even just making the roster, opening day right fielder. Still need the 40-man move that's going to bring Carson up. Still waiting for that announcement. But what about butterflies like that? First opening day for a young man like Bench, who's played, I think we said it in the episode yesterday, like 50 games of the upper minors. Now he's going to get a crack against Paul Skeens on this coming Thursday. How's that feel for the young man that first opening day?
Well, I think part of it is just a real, like, you can't say enough about Carson and the camp he had. Like, it's something to be given an opportunity. It's another thing entirely to take full advantage of that opportunity. So, I think David Stearns in the offseason kind of laid the groundwork that Carson was going to get a chance to make this club. But when he comes in, puts together the at-bats that he does, I'm really a big fan of like how accurate he is, how he adjusts his swing and kind of his approach with the scoreboard and how many strikes he has. I think that will give him the confidence to try to get to his power. You know what I mean? As he gains these at bats earlier in the account, figuring out how do I get to second base? Because I think as accurate as he is, and as much as he's gonna at bats, he's gonna have the platoon advantage. I think he should be okay getting base hits. You know what I mean? Getting to first base. And so I think that the butterflies, again, like you said, listening to him just a little bit, I didn't get a chance to talk to him when I was in camp, but he seems like he's got the temperament for it. Like he doesn't take anything so seriously that it gets him down, or think that he's going so good that that he'll be able to ride this the entire season. Just kind of takes the at bats and the playing time. I think the pitches as they come. I think that will be really helpful. Again, you can't. You got Juan Soto is going to be there, Francisco Lindor, like these veteran players, he'll also be able to lean on. And so but there is something sincerely exciting about having the enthusiasm of youth. Like he don't know what 162 looks like. He's just going to go and do it as best he can and kind of bring all this energy. And so more power to you. And I'm sure that Mendoza will be able to find the spots, in the season to not necessarily give him a blow, but protect him just a little bit. Now, at the same time, if he's just balling, then run him out there against every tough left-hander you see. So it'll be, it'd be good. It's always fun that first opening day. You're going to get us to, it's Strasburg, it's Scherzer. I'm dating myself a little bit of who we faced, when those Nationals, when we were playing them in opening day with the Mets. But it's Paul Skeens. And so you get the ringers the first day of the season, and we'll get to cut him loose and see how he does with that.
Not just Carson Bench coming into this lineup now, but so many new names. Basically an entirely new team, especially on the offensive side. Jorge Polanco at first base. Murph, you're a guy who went from second base, played a little first base later in your career. Speak to the changes and the adjustments that you've seen Jorge Polanco make so far and why there's confidence that he can play this position.
Well, I think there's confidence because if you can play in the middle of the diamond, you're defensively, you're able to handle the ball. You know what I mean? You're able to catch it. It's going to be a shorter throw, especially as you're delivering it to first. He'll have the pivot play going to second, but with the footwork, and the ball handling that he's developed in the middle of the diamond, I don't think that should be too much of a problem. Usually, some of the toughest parts are figuring out which balls are yours and which balls aren't. And I think Brett Baty even had a play kind of earlier in spring training where that ball off to your right, like if you're playing second when the ball's hit, all you get to think what at least in my mind was going off is like mine, that's mine. It's not necessarily the case always like that at first base. So you kind of have to, with the reps and the practice, know which ball belongs to the second baseman, which ball belongs to the pitcher, because there are balls that the pitcher's going to take kind of in that little triangle area of the infield. And then it'll be just, I would say, the proximity to home plate, holding on a runner at first. Balls get to you a little bit quicker. You have to be ready. And then, finally, like any position, which Jorge has done his entire career, is what does the scoreboard say? Like, when does the scoreboard say we have to try to get 2 outs right here? And when does the scoreboard say let's secure 1 out and prevent this from kind of being a big inning?
Hey, have you hit the age where everything feels a little bit more difficult? The gym, yes, but everything, like energy crashes in the afternoon?
You might have been reading about low T and you see your doctor about it, and they want to give you basically shots every week for the rest of your life. Oh, cool. That sounds fun. And then you dig deeper and you realize what you're signing up for, and it's $3,000 a year to shut down your body's natural production forever. That is brutal.
Mars Men gives you the same benefits of optimized testosterone, energy, strength, focus, without shutting your body down. No synthetics, no needles, no dependencies. It's like hitting the reset button on your hormone factory instead of shutting it down.
For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
technically speaking, when you do make that move from second to first, how do you know? Where's the pressure point about, do I get this ball in the hole? Do I go cover the bag? Like how as a second baseman move to first yourself, did you kind of make that switch?
I would say the easiest way I learned is I went for a ball, caught it, and I'm gonna say I recorded the out, and then turned around and Louis Castillo was there, like, "Hey man, I like to play too." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's probably the easiest way I can describe it. And what you do is the reps. Like I've heard you guys on your podcast talking about Kai Correa and how well he's done with what Davis out in San Francisco and got him going. I think it'll be the reps that they're able to get in practice. When I was down in camp, I saw the guys doing a good amount of like side toss fungos, which I think is more game realistic. So you could just what you do, and there'll also be some balls like, to be honest with you, that the second baseman will be playing so far up the middle that you could probably just tell Jorge, when the ball gets hit, you just go for it because you're like the only one over here on the right side of the diamond. And so I just think that between the reps he's getting in practice and the game reps, hopefully there's not too many growing pains on the game reps because those ones start going on the back of your baseball card, that he should be able to sort it. And then also finally you've got Brett Baty. If anything turns out, it may need a little bit more practice
Yeah.
reps for Jorge to sort it out, while Brett's there as well.
We're so excited about Brett this year. It's very funny that the role that he's now taking over it's not the same, but it's in the similar ilk of like Jeff McNeil, super utility man, put me where you want me. I can play everywhere. Even played a little bit of outfield and looked pretty good out there. I feel like the confidence in Brett Baty for this team, this organization, this fan base is pretty high. And again, Murph is a guy who's like moved around. What's the feeling as a player, kind of not necessarily knowing where you're going to play every single day?
There's a bit of, I would say, exciting anticipation a little bit that you have the opportunity to help the team at a couple different positions. And, Mendoza will do, everything within his power to put Brett in a position to succeed. At the same time, this is also the modern game. Where, Brett has the platoon advantage, so he's left-handed. So he's going to have that, 75% of the time. And now he can help you at third base, first base, a bit of outfield. I'm not going to say I'm skeptical on the outfield. I'm probably speaking more for myself. It was harder than it looked when I got out there. Now, I'm not saying Brett can't do it. I'm talking about myself. But Brett's ability to play, first, third, and second, and be able to play the outfield in a pinch, and perhaps even longer as he's able to develop out there, is huge for your roster construction. I think it gives David Stearns a massive amount of freedom to construct the roster, to have somebody that almost is always going to be the platoon advantage as a pinch hitter off the bench, or you can run out there at any of these number of positions. Really will help with the roster a ton. And he's been productive. You guys have talked about how much he's grown defensively, and then how well he swung the bat probably the last 4 months of last season. And so it may be, where are we going to find him reps to get in there? Because as of right now, I guess he would be DHing maybe opening day or play first base. I mean, so against the right, that'll be probably a bit of fun that we get to see.
It is funny too because he's DHing. He might be the best player defensively, two positions on the diamond, and he might not have the opportunity to play them. Like that's so much of the growth with Brett Baty too, is the mentals. Like he's taking kind of every single challenge in stride. Every single time he's been moved up a peg, he's taken it humbly. Every time he's moved down a peg, he's taken it humbly. What would you look for communication from coaches, manager, when you're in a guy's situation like Baty, who did feel like you broke out, did feel like you were probably going to get your name written in pen, and now it's more written in pencil coming into the season?
Mhm. Well, I think that, some of the communication would probably be more global as far as like, here's the big picture of what you're looking at. And, Mendoza or Stearns may sit him down, and you guys follow the club a little better than me, but like, I guess they're hoping to get him, 400 plus plate appearances, maybe more. Like, would that be like 400 plate appearances
Yeah,
would
at
be
least,
something
yeah.
you'd want? Okay, so at least, so like now we're talking about balling almost every day somewhere. And so you tell them like, it will be in different spots, but you're a part of this lineup almost every day as much as we can. And then again, tough left-handers, you may run Tyrone Taylor out there, get a chance to get Mark Vientos on the menu as well. So I think that would be more the big picture look at it, and then you can break it down from big picture to a little bit smaller, in that all right, here's the stretch of the season. We think it looks like you may be playing more second right now, more first, or a little bit more third. Or this is the early days here. You're going to be the DH until something kind of busts loose, until we figure out, how well Jorge and Bo are handling the corners, or Carson and out in the outfield, and perhaps Simeon at second. So I like that idea. And then I would say on a day to day, selfishly, I like knowing if I was on the menu, if I was in the lineup the next day. So the earlier I was able to find out about it, I'm talking night before, because then I would plan my next day accordingly. Like if I'm in there, the moment I wake up, I'm basically getting ready for the starting pitcher. And I probably do that the night before I go to bed. I'm going to watch the next day's starting pitcher. If I know I'm in there, I'm going to see how his ball performs, if there's any tips that I can pick up. And as I go to sleep, I'm going to be like, all right, this is what I'm trying to do the next day. And then when I wake up, it's all leading towards, 7 o'clock when I face him. If I'm not in there, I may go to bed or wake up the next morning thinking, what's the best way for me to get some work in today, to better help myself at a position. Maybe I don't feel as comfortable at second base. Maybe I want to go out to right field and take some balls off the bat. Now, Brett's a young man, and he's going to have to do some of that at the same time as playing, even when he's in there. But it just gives you a little better chance to kind of construct your day at what may end up, you think, being most beneficial to helping you out. And then you get ready for a pinch hit if you're not in there, if you're on the SWAT team.
Yeah, it's funny. We've talked about this a lot too, where the Mets have, like, let's call them problems right now that I feel like we kind of haven't had almost ever, where it's like got a lot of guys that can play a lot of positions. Where are we going to play Brett Baty? What a great problem to have. Or even on the pitching side, trying to figure out if Sean Manaea is going to be in the rotation, Tobias Myers, guys like that. Of the new players that they brought in, is there anybody that's particularly sticking out to you as someone you're excited to see play for the Mets this year?
Peralta, like Freddie. Like I just got a chance to see him in passing, and his sincerity, honestly, with which he said hello and kind of like greeted me. He was just heading out to get his work in, but I was like, oh man. And we have the same agent as well too. So like I hear nothing but wonderful stories about Freddie. And so like Freddie's one, and then also like there is some anticipation for the corners, like just to see how Jorge and Bo defend. I don't think there's much question at all at how offensive they're going to be. Like that's like they've been offensive almost kind of their entire careers. Maybe Jorge just a little bit there a couple years ago. I think he kind of, wasn't quite as productive as he was hoping. But whenever Bo's been on the field, he hits. Also, learning a new position and being offensive takes, I don't say it takes a veteran player, but it's different. It's different than just knowing that you're going out there as the second baseman or the shortstop every single day, set it and forget it. And so there will be some a bit more workload on them as they're continuing to develop defensively while also still wanting to bang.
Past that, even just more broad, half this team is new, even if not more than half of it. I think we're returning at like the fourth or fifth fewest innings and plate appearances combined of any team the season before in all of baseball. Yet there are big, heavy, legitimate expectations on what is a star-studded, one of the most expensive rosters in baseball. From the bit of time you spent down there in camp, were you seeing anything with the guys, getting to know each other, spending some time together, just kind of learning the personalities of who's going to be their brothers for the next 6 months?
Yeah, I got a chance to see Clay Holmes as well. He was on the WBC team and got a chance to talk with him right before they were leaving, probably just a couple days later. And I really enjoy Clay. We've got a chance to speak with each other and been in some conferences together in the off season. And I think that he'll be a real positive veteran influence for the pitching staff, along with the amount of work that he put in last year, coming from the bullpen to being a starting pitcher. I think, did he grab 150 innings, 140, 150 innings? I'll let you guys kind of correct me on that, but like good work that he put
145, I
in.
think, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's like those are hard to come by. Like it's just you don't see many guys throwing that many innings as much in the modern game. And then when I got into camp,
165.
they had, oh, look, even more impressive.
Yeah.
The boys had just gone out to the West Coast, I think, to play the Blue Jays and I don't know somebody else out there. But I was kind of sniffing around and just trying to see, what was it like for the guys that stayed back, because those times are really, really good chances for the players who stay behind, because the work days aren't quite as long. Like you get your BP in, you get your defensive work, a good workout maybe in the weight room, and then you can kind of hang out with each other. Maybe you do it at the clubhouse or go out and go golfing or something like that. And it did between, seeing Juan Soto and Luis Robert hanging out together. And, Francisco Lindor was out there, even though he had his cast on. He looks like he's doing great right now, ready for opening day. And so, like, you could kind of feel that even though the faces were new, there was an understanding that maybe we need to come together because we got work to be done this year. The faces are new, but the expectations are just as high as they've been since Steve Cohen and David Stearns have been constructing these rosters.
Yeah, which is exciting to hear because I think every single Mets fan who's listening to this, and honestly every single Met fan in the world, is got high expectations for this team, whether you like the moves that David Stearns made this offseason or not, whether you're excited because we got new players or you're sad because we lost some franchise favorites. This team does have lofty expectations, and with that, there's a lot of pressure on the guys like Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor. You mentioned Freddie Peralta. Soto and Lindor, this is now very much officially their team. These are the guys who are here. Me and James talked about it. They're signed under contract past, 2028, James?
Yeah, the only two guys.
Yes. Do you think that now, I don't want to say like cleaning up the leadership, but do you think that because it's very much their team, we could see maybe Juan Soto maybe take on a little more of a leadership role now that he's not surrounded by a bunch of veterans who have been here for 7-8 years?
Yeah, I think that as Juan is, he spent last season kind of, I wouldn't say getting his feet wet, but it is like it's an entirely new organization. You're learning new faces, new names, and kind of just the cadence of things. Also, I do think at the same time, like Juan was a leader when I played with him in 18 with the Nationals, and that's somebody that Juan is always going to come to work ready and prepared and put in a full shift to get ready for the ball game. Like he's going to give you everything he's got. You can see his intensity on every single pitch. And so, his ability that he chooses to not give away pitches, I think is a leadership role all of itself because it's difficult to do that. I saw David Wright do that. I have given away enough pitches in my career to know that that's hard to do. So when you see the best player in your club, the highest paid player going out there and just laying it on the line for this pitch right now, it kind of leaves you, I won't say kind of, it leaves you as no excuse as a teammate. And, while Juan last year and maybe in the past hasn't been, you would say, is vocal, I would say maybe more outwardly to the media because it's not like he didn't talk when he was in the clubhouse. Like he'll ball talk with you, no doubt. But it's, I think that, he'll be more comfortable this year, certainly. And maybe I don't know if you call me old school or what, but like give me the 280 with the 35 plus homers and the 400 plus on base percentage. And I'm not going to say and you kind of not do what you want, but like he's doing exactly what I want him to do. Like that exactly what I want him to do.
That's what we say. Like at the end of the day, he just shows up and performs every single time.
Mm-hmm. Because as a teammate, you really do have, you really have no excuse for just how he engages on each pitch. And I think, James, you're absolutely right in that Francisco goes about his business the same exact way. I think that they enjoy their baseball and express themselves differently within the lines, but that's how we all do. I think we just got through watching a whole WBC about how each individual, country represents and kind of expresses itself, and I thought it was beautiful. I loved it. My boys, my 8-year-old just got done playing at Space Coast Stadium down with the Nationals this past weekend. And it was a trip to see that because I was on that property, like 20 years ago now when it looked like a prison. And so now it's built for youth baseball. And the team we played in the championship, we get done and the boys are getting their rings. He's got a Los Aguilas jersey on from the Dominican Republic in San Diego.
Nice.
I was like, I go, Dime Los Aguilas. I was like, let's talk a little ball. I've been down there before. I was like, I played for you boys, played for Tony Pena down there. And so each culture has a way at how we express ourselves individually. And so I think that between Francisco and Juan, both are positive, and they'll find their way within the confines and the structure of the ball club to hopefully lead the team to a division and onward to a pennant and a world's championship.
AJ, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Fox One. Fox One is where you can watch AJ Pierzynski. And I get this email every week now, AJ, that says what to watch this week on Fox One. They give you the weekly watch list. And now that is going to be full of Saturday MLB games with a little bit of you, a little bit of Ken Rosenthal, and your friends.
Absolutely. That starts next Saturday, Sky. You can watch all the games on the Fox One app. You can watch college basketball. You can watch college football. You can watch, they have IndyCar. They have NASCAR, and they have great shows. Fox One is the app that really does have it all.
Start your 7-day free trial today. Offers are subject to change. Go to Fox One for complete terms and conditions. Fox One, streaming now.
Now my mind started twirling somewhere else. I want to get back to the Mets maybe for a few minutes after, but there was a bit of a conversation around Team USA and the WBC just about how a little bit, I don't know, what's the word we've used a little bit, Mark? Kind of
Tight?
just like
Corporate?
how tight corporate that team felt relative to these other
Conservative.
nations that champion baseball.
Conservative,
Yes.
yeah.
Did you see that come through when you were watching the game as a former member and champion as a part of the Team USA? And do you think that's something that's worth kind of digging into deeper about maybe why this exact collection of some of the best baseball talent I've ever seen on one field together struggled to get over a hump in this tournament specifically?
I think the Americans were just not offensive enough. I don't think that their inability as an offense to come together kind of cohesively and lean on the opposing pitching staff, and I mean really lean on it. I don't think that had anything to do with the fact that as Americans, we seem a bit more reserved in our celebrations. I don't think that that means that we're reserved at all in our intent and what we're trying to do. It's just we kind of grew up learning our baseball a little bit differently. And that's not to say at all that the Dominican Republic or Venezuela, I felt at any moment was showing us up. They just celebrate and express themselves in a different way with their baseball than we do. And I think that as an American, without a doubt, I can learn. I learned from being down the Dominican Republic. I learned from Carlos Gomez getting to first base and talking to me and like, Murphy, when you get a base hit down here and you drive somebody in, you gotta celebrate. You gotta pimp that. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, Gomez, I hear you. At the same time, I wouldn't say fearful, maybe more aware as like, I don't ever want the opposing team to think that I'm showing them up or that I'm celebrating at their expense. Because at a certain point, I'll be the person on my back and somebody else is celebrating. And I don't want that. I wouldn't want to feel like they're kind of, celebrating and stomping on my face in a way that's, a little bit, not mean spirited, but just, celebrating in that way. And so I think that that probably led me to be more conservative than I had to be, like a little more reserved. But finally, I would say maybe this, Bryce Harper, I got a chance to play against Bryce as a young player. I don't think that Bryce is really reserved at all in his celebrations. Unfortunately, in this one, the American offense just didn't give ourselves as many chances, I think to kind of to celebrate as we were hoping for. We scored against the Italians while we were chasing, got some against the Canadians, and then after that it was pretty much our pitching staff and kind of stringing stuff to, trying to string just a little bit together on offense. And so, I remember Bryce as he was coming up, he was someone that was willing to say like, I'm here, I put in the work, look at me a little bit. I didn't have that temperament. I was always afraid that if you look at me, what if I do something I'm not supposed to kind of. And so I was a little bit more fearful of it. And I do appreciate the freedom at which some of the Latin American countries and players play with. I do. I have hopefully a healthy envy for how they go out and express themselves. It just that wasn't my game, that it came in out maybe just briefly in spurts, but there is some real freedom, I think. And so yeah, the Venezuelan team was able to come together. You could say that would be probably maybe part of the reason why they won. Their ability to come together as an offense and kind of lean on the opposing pitchers. And so, but I don't think that how the Americans go about their baseball was the reason why we came up short this time. It's a difficult tournament to win, and getting more difficult, I would say, than it was in 17. Like the Italians in 17, like they didn't ball like this. And so each country is getting better each tournament, and I think that what a testament to how well the tournament's been put on and how good the baseball is, that guys are just like looking forward to this. Um, but yeah, it's a hard tournament to win, or at least I'm
Yeah.
told. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the growth of baseball, the growth of baseball, I think will come from the WBC in terms of globally, where sometimes Major League Baseball I think has that issue with the reach. But bringing it back to the Mets here a little bit, talking about Carlos Mendoza going into his third year as Mets manager, let's kind of take him out of the situation and more talk about the role as a manager, because I think for 99.999% of us that are listening, watching baseball, taking it in, I think we probably put too much pressure on a manager and what they do every single day to the value of how a team performs. So maybe you can give us a little insight into, again, not what Carlos Mendoza does, and obviously every manager does things differently, but like what is the manager actually doing? Like how much of an impact is there? Is it that important? That's kind of a take I feel like is going around baseball right now, is that the manager is kind of replaceable as long as you have the players.
Wrong. In my opinion, wrong. Like managing like a group of 26 men along with the coaching staff, the weight room staff, and just being able to coordinate all this is like it's massive. Because what you're trying to do basically, let's call it what, 50 people maybe that are, coming into the ballpark every day, 40 plus people. You're trying to put each one of them in the best position to succeed with the 26 guys taking basically the bulk of that kind of attention. Like those are the ones that we're all here for to succeed. And so, you got guys that are married, guys that have children, guys that have family stuff going on. And so like, how can I get to know you and invest in you in a way that you think is sincere? Like it has to be sincere. I can't feel like it's forced or faked to put me in the best position to succeed. And that takes some real selflessness. It takes some real awareness of what's going on with your club and the players. And that is so it's creating an environment in which the best players on the planet can go and express themselves freely and play well, play with freedom, pay attention to the scoreboard. And that we haven't even kind of gotten into, the ball game and the strategy of it. You know what I mean? Like, so now I want to put you in a position to succeed, but also I need to know that you're paying attention to the ball game and you're seeing what's coming, that my coaching staff is conveying the sort of strategy within this game, series, month, half, season that's going to give us all the best chance to succeed. And like that's it sounds like it's becoming quite a thankless job because perhaps maybe as the lineup and somewhat the bullpen decisions become somewhat more collective in the modern game between the manager's office and the front office, there's this misconception that anybody could kind of do it. And I just don't buy that in any stretch. Like if you were to ask me, do you want to manage? The first thing I was like, that sounds overwhelming. I would want to get in the locker room, maybe as a hitting coach or even in the minor leagues before I would want to take on that responsibility or something like that. And so I think it's a huge responsibility, a huge task to take on. That Carlos has now had two campaigns to practice and get better at, and he's also at the same time got a whole kind of group, like you said, of new players that he's learning and what are their skills, what puts them in the best position to succeed, and then you got the tactics of the ball game as well. Like there's a lot that goes on to it.
New players and a whole new fleet of assistant coaches. There's not a lot of similarity into any of even the pregame processes, the off the field processes. And it has become thankless. Chris Kirschner from The Athletic, I believe, put out a piece this week about how Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman get frustrated that there's this prevailing narrative that Cashman draws up the lineup. And I think the tagline was like, there's no fucking way. Like that was a quote from Brian Cashman in the article, which is funny, but like we kind of fans do this all the time too. It happens a lot in basketball. Like people talk about Phil Jackson leading those Bulls teams like to all those championships. But like, oh, he had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. Anyone could have won. Like if you ever talked to Michael Jordan, managing an ego like that, and like these managers have to do that, it's amazing. But it's Mets team. It's a very good collection of talented people right now. People, coaches, players, everything. But the difference is, to me, or at least to Mark and I, we talked about the 10 questions yesterday for this team. It feels like almost the most pressure right now in this organization could possibly be on Carlos Mendoza. And it's going to be a little bit about him navigating all of this new stuff and making sure he steers the ship.
Yeah, I think John McGraw used to say when they'd start a season in the campaign, he wanted to start fast. Now, I'm sure every team thinks that, but so maybe part of what David Stearns has done in bringing in these new faces, and they can obviously play, and they've been productive every place they've been. They're not mercenaries, but they're new. And it's not Pete Alonso, who's been in the organization since he got drafted, and Brandon Nimmo, who have this kind of decade worth of, Mets foundation within them. And not to mention that, like, one thing you could say about Pete and Brandon is like they posted, like they came and they played and they were available. And so it will be hard not to compare throughout the season as a whole, Jorge and Bo's availability to Brandon and Pete. I think that furthermore, I'm curious to see how patient, and hopefully you don't have to find out, but how patient the Mets fans are about the defense and the productivity as a whole. Because as you come in as a free agent player, I guess I would say it this way, like Jason Bay was given less patience, it felt like, from the fans than Lucas Duda. You know what I mean? Now, some of it has to do with the amount of money you're making. But like there's something about homegrown guys. It's like that it feels like fans are more apt to want to give the benefit of the doubt to. Now, you can endear yourself very quickly to the fans if you're Jorge and Bo and Marcus Simeon and you come out and you start the season, 8-3. You know what I mean? Like, just start out winning series and get going, and then now it turns away from you're new to like we're all Mets and we're in this season. And so,
Yeah.
but at the same time, if you scuffle out of the gates, the idea that you won't hear about it, I think, is laughable. Like
Yeah.
I think the Mets fans, as well they should, with the amount of money they pay in their investment, get to kind of say what they want and express themselves how they see fit during the course of a ball game and a season.
Yeah, I mean, we know it well. The Mets fans will let you know as soon as they possibly can how they're feeling, whether you're good, bad, disappointing, exciting. We wear our heart on our sleeve just a little bit.
And the Mets fans flip quickly, I think, faster than a lot of other fan bases. Like, people loved Pete. Then there was that story from early on the 24 season where Pete declined that extension. That went very public. And I remember I had decent seats. I think it was your old club baseball coach. I think I had his seats for Christian Scott's home debut. And Pete was getting jeered by fans around there, like screaming about the dollars and the cents that he declined. And then he gets hot, he hits the home run, everyone's back in love. Like, it's just we go fast in both directions. Like, there's really no stopping a Mets fan from saying what they want to say.
Really hoping that with like Bo Bichette and Polanco, they just and Luis Robert even, because there's going to be ups and downs with him, with how volatile of a player that he's been in the past. Marcus Simeon, we know, like a little bit of a slow starter historically. Sometimes comes out the gate slow. Just give him a little second. I mean, we saw it with Soto last year. He had like an 840 OPS through the first couple months, and people were ready to scream at him and lose their mind. What a waste of money. Then at the end of the year, you see he's one of the best players in baseball again. So I just hope we can be a little more patient, but also we know that's not going to be the case.
Patient. It don't matter. You get to pick. It's as the players, it's easier for us because what we should be focusing on is the scoreboard. And I think that you'll find that the jeers end up being the loudest when a strikeout comes with a runner on third and less than 2 outs. And so you can work that entire at bat backwards and say, was there a pitch within that at bat that you could have pushed this ball forward and given yourself a better chance to score the run? Because if you go YOLO on this 1-1 fastball and foul it off, and then you swing in a breaker in the dirt, you're going to hear it because your at bat is showing me that you were somewhat unwilling to sacrifice perhaps a homer or a double to get the job done. And that's the beauty of a Mets fan in New York is they recognize that. And when they recognize it, we're going to give it to you. Now, if you go and you strike out with nobody on and 2 outs and you know what I mean? And it's a different situation type of thing. Now, if it begins to accumulate and the fans don't feel like they see any adjustments, well, then you're going to get it again. But that's okay. I mean, that's fine. The fans get to pick. It never really bothered me that much because I felt like if I could just, the easiest thing to do was to focus on what the scoreboard was asking me to do. It was really the only problem I could solve properly. Because if I'm trying to solve the problem of ensuring that the fans are cheering for me, that's just the easiest way to do it is to do what the scoreboard says. And I can't prevent them from booing because I'm human. The only way that maybe I can help with that is like play as hard as I can. Play as hard as I can and pay attention. And then I think that Mets fans, they give you the benefit of the doubt in those situations.
Murph, you're going to have a little more exposure to Mets fans this year. If you guys haven't heard, Daniel's going to be in a lot more SNY broadcasts. Where's your excitement level for that, and how are you preparing to be up here a little bit more, be in the great Northeast, back in Citi Field?
I'm really excited to get a chance to do the Nats game at the end of April, and then I think I'm also going to Cleveland. I think Cleveland or Seattle. I forget. So we have those two series. It gives me a reason to follow even more closely than I already try to do with the Mets. And like I guess we were talking before we got on here about the last couple roster spots, and unfortunately Mike Tauchman went down. So I'm trying to pay attention as best I could. And then you don't really need many excuses, but I'll take them as I get them to listen to Gary, Keith, and Ron they're so good. I got a chance to do two games in spring training with Gary Cohen again, and so between the broadcast, the expectations for the season, it's easy to want to attend to what's going on, and so I'm going to do that even more closely. So hopefully, I'm planning on coming in with some, a bit of a running start. I don't want to be like, some phony off the street. So I want to have as best a pulse of the club as I can, from down here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, I mean, you did great in spring, so we're excited to see what you're going to do during the regular season when you make your appearances. Last question here will be, let's just talk about the Mets in the NL East. How do you think they stack up against the rest of the division? Because I think we know that the Marlins and Nats are in the bottom, but it really kind of is a three-headed dogfight at the top between the Phillies, Braves, and Mets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Braves come out of the gates with the blows to the starting pitching they've gotten here early days. Like, be curious to see if they spend some of that Profar money. It's not like they don't have it. There's a little lockout preview for you there, a little labor ball talk. The Braves got 15 million, so spend your meal money. You know what I mean? But then also at the same time, the Phillies, I think Wheeler will be a huge deal at how he feels and looks over the course of the season because of how stable he's been. But kind of in my, you know, run up to the start of the season, it sounds like the teams you keep hearing is really talented are, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Mariners, the Mets, the Red Sox. These are, the Tigers. These are some of the teams whose names keep coming up. So I think the division will be there for the taking. I'll be curious to see how the loss of Edwin Diaz more how the loss of Edwin Diaz plays out. I felt like once that happened that the Mets would end up being about half a player behind this winter, if that makes sense. Just maybe just a little bit short. Now this can also be resolved at the trade deadline. Like there'll be an opportunity there. But it did feel like the Mets really wanted to retain Sugar, and their inability to do so felt like it left them maybe half a player behind. But I also love Luke Weaver and that addition, and Devin Williams was in New York last year, so you hope that he can improve upon that. And so, and then offensively, I think they're going to need to mash left-handed pitching. Like I think that when a lefty is on the menu and pitching against them is like, today, boys, we get fat because you got Robert's going to have the platoon advantage. Simeon's going to have the platoon advantage. It's like, today, boys, we get fat against these lefties. And then, it won't be quite that way with righties, but at the same time, if you're swinging the bat well off the lefties, then you hope that you can carry those ABs over against the righties. So, you know, between that, availability, I think on the position player group in comparison to Nimmo and Alonso leaving, will be interesting to watch. And then I guess the last one you got, yeah, I mean Mania looks like he's going to be in the bullpen to start, which is, hopefully more innings that you have access to. It's, if I think if the Mets were able to glean, I'm sure a couple things, but from last year is like, starting pitching length is a big deal at any point of the season because of the lack of starting pitching length just taxes the entire staff in a way that kind of crosses months or even halves of the season that you carry along with you. But exciting times. Looking forward to Mendoza getting, his third season under his belt. He's got a whole new staff with him and a bunch of new faces. And ding ding, like the bell's about to ring. Ain't no running from it. Now the cool part, I guess you could say about the beginning of the season is you have these built-in off days in April, so you kind of get like to ease into the season a little bit as far as playing every day. You won't get to ease into it as far as, how much they count. You can't win the division in April, but you can lose it. I guess that's the old saying, right? One of those is can't win a game in the first, but you can lose it. And so, like John McGraw, come out of the gates fast, watch that scoreboard, put yourself in a position to win.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, especially going out west. I say it every single episode, but how much the team's going out west, it's going to be a good excuse for them to get together and really become friends on those long flights to San Francisco and then LA and then one more time Arizona.
Yeah, they got that big old payroll. We'll play a little credit card roulette. Have some of these rich guys pay for this meal.
Yeah, they got a couple guys on that roster that can definitely help out some of the
Yeah.
rookies on this team. Yeah, they're going to be all right. But Murph, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We really appreciate it. If you got anything going on, this is your chance to let the people know what to check out that you want to plug, and hope to hear more from you and keep you posted on Mets'd Up.
No, I just yeah, we're just doing Sandlot baseball right now with my boys. Got a little ice skating going on with my daughter. I would say we could all pray salud for each one of us. You know,
There we go.
salud and good community amongst us as the baseball season starts.
Love to hear that, guys. That's the Mets'd Up season preview. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you after opening day. Let's go Mets.
Let's go, Mets, guys. Peace out.